All right, welcome. Let's get started with our climate change simulation tutorial. So this is the first screen that you see when you log into the website. The first step is to click Setup, and then you can get the simulation started. So I've clicked Setup, and now I have access to the different variables that I can both manipulate, change at the beginning of my experiment, which again is our independent variables, as well as the dependent variables, the variables that I will measure throughout and at the end of the experiment. So just a quick background on some things that you can change. You can change sun brightness by moving the scale up and down. Albedo, which we talked about, means how much of the energy is being absorbed into the earth. You can add clouds. You can remove clouds. You can add carbon dioxide molecules, which again we talked about on Tuesday is an important part of the guiding question. Notice that as I add them, this number increases, so this will be an important value for you if you choose this as your independent variable. And you can also take away these carbon dioxide molecules. Notice that there is a space for temperature, but it's not something that I'm changing right now. It's something that I will measure as the experiment is going on and at the end of the experiment. Another important thing to be aware of as you're getting started is the model speed. So you can increase how fast the simulation runs. You can also decrease how fast the simulation runs. So your group can think about what's the advantage of increasing the speed, what's the disadvantage of increasing the speed. I think for our example, I'm going to increase the speed and have a larger amount of time period that I've run the simulation. We'll talk more about that in a minute as well. So right now I've got my variables set at a specific point and I am ready to hit go. So let's run the experiment. Right away, I've got lots happening on the simulation here, and I've also got some data being collected here. So let's talk about what this graph means. If I'm interested in a specific point, I can hover my mouse over that part of the line graph, and it gives me both the x and the y values for that data point. So the x values would be time, right? So if this is line graph, we're measuring something over time. And then we've also got the dependent variable of interest, temperature, along the y-axis. Notice that the temperature is being changed here as well. So a couple of different places to get that information. Model ticks, what that is referring to is basically, again, the variable of time. How long is this simulation running? And so you might think of this in terms of days or years. It just depends on what the simulation is looking at. And be thinking in your group, how long do we want to run this simulation? We should probably do the same thing for each experiment. And so again, it's up to you and your group to decide the methods and what you're interested in testing. If you get to a point that you feel like, okay, yeah, 6,000 ticks, that sounds like an amount of time that I would like to look at, you can hit go again, and then that pauses the simulation where it is. Notice we see a lot of different things happening on the screen. These are all good things you can talk about in your reasoning section and why we're seeing this change in temperature. To save this graph, you can click on download JPEG or download PDF, and both of those are good options for saving this image for future reference. But you definitely want to save the temperature itself. Hover over either the last time point or try to determine the rate by comparing the beginning to the end time point, whatever your dependent variable has been selected in your group. So I think those are the main things to be aware of for the running the model itself. Also, don't forget that if any time you're not sure what's happening, check out the model info below. And this is a good background of what it is we're trying to study and how you can manipulate things, change things in the model. So a great background here on greenhouse gases and then what it is that you're changing, measuring in the model, in the simulation. All right, so I think that about does it. So let me know if you have questions and good luck.